What's up and welcome to My Point of View. I am your fat and opinionated host, and I cannot lie. I can't even hide it. I am ticked off right now. Don't get me wrong, I'm not like raging out angry, ready to fight somebody, but I am extremely aggravated. My nerves have been irked, if you will. My nerves have been completely irked by some of the details that recently came out about Bryan Kohberger and his life behind bars. Now, we talked about this in 2 videos on this channel already. We talked about how obsessed Bryan is with his own case. You know what I mean? And that didn't come as a surprise to anyone. Bryan is behind bars, following up with the Idaho 4 case, just like all of us. He's tuned into the news daily, watching coverage about his case. He's obsessing over it. And I kind of made the point in one of my last videos that for me, I think that, you know, when it comes to most evil people who do evil things like what Bryan's alleged of doing, I think for them, the act of taking a life is what is gratifying for them. Like they get something out of that. But with Bryan Kohberger, I think what's gratifying for him is following his own case, because we know he had an obsession with true crime. We know he had an obsession with crime scenes and how criminals get away with crimes and the whole legal process that happens after a heinous situation like the one he's wrapped up in. So for me, I feel like a lot of this for Bryan wasn't the process of taking a life. It was the legal process that came afterwards. And I feel like he's loving this. I feel like he's all wrapped up in it. It's like a hands-on learning experience for him that he is enjoying. Another thing we talked about is that Bryan Kohberger allegedly has now found God. Okay? Bryan Kohberger is now suddenly a man of God. He's constantly talking to the priests, going to church and jail. And, you know, everyone has different beliefs. I am open and welcome to people of all beliefs. I find it hard to believe that Bryan is serious about turning to God. And even if he is serious, in my opinion, it's a little too late. I'm not all for that, oh, you can do whatever you want and then ask God for forgiveness and then everything's okay. You got a clean slate. I don't rock like that. I don't rock with that way of thinking. I don't rock with that belief system. If that's your belief system, fine. I was raised in the Christian church. I understand the point of forgiveness. I understand that some people view sins as all on an equal playing field. I do not. I don't think that you can do something like what Bryan's alleged of doing and then you just say, sorry, I'm going to go to church now and everything's fine. Doesn't cut it with me. Not one bit. But what really ticks me off here isn't all of that. It isn't all of that. What really ticks me off here is that Bryan is really and honestly getting special treatment in jail. Make no mistake about it. Bryan is getting special treatment in jail. Not only is he being held away from other inmates because they know they would probably stomp a mud hole into his ass, but he has been given a private television. That's right. You know, usually in jail, you have the day room, or I wouldn't call it a rec room. Usually in jail, you don't get your own television, okay? You have a community room where everyone gathers around and they beat each other's brains in over what they're going to watch on TV today. You know? I mean, that's the reality of the situation. Bryan doesn't have to deal with that. Bryan doesn't have to watch the community TV where everyone figures out, hey, we all got to come together and decide what we're going to watch today. Bryan doesn't do that. Bryan gets a special TV in his jail cell so he could tune into News Nation and watch Bryan Enton talk about the case. Bryan Kohberger gets a special TV all to himself so he can follow up with his case. It's incredibly sickening to me. But that's not the only preferential treatment Bryan is getting. I want you all to watch this clip. It's about 3 or 4 minutes long. watch it in its entirety so you all can get a firm grasp of what Bryan is going through in jail, which isn't much. He's even having his vegan needs taken care of. Watch this clip and then I'll be back with a rant, I assure you.
Anytime he leaves the cell, he has at least 2 guards with him. There are moments where he walks by other cells where they yell out at him, but we are told that he just remains totally stone cold, looking forward, no emotion when other inmates yell out at him, which really is no surprise based on what we already know about Kohberger, Ashley.
Yeah, some of those inmates interviewed have said that they couldn't believe they were in there locked up with him because they said this is Moscow. Not a lot of this kind of stuff happens here. One inmate was quoted saying this: "He watches himself all the time. It's really kind of bizarre." That reference to the fact that he's watching coverage of himself on television. And here's the weird part, Bryan. We're told that the jailer decides one channel. One channel is what the entire jail gets. So if the other inmates are over in, like a rec room together watching their single television, he has to watch the same thing, but he has to watch it in his own cell. But the other inmates, who some of them say we're just 30 feet away from him, they know, for some reason, they know when he's sitting there consuming his own press. It's just sort of a fascinating concept.
Yeah, and I'm sure they can hear it. I mean, again, it's a very, very, very small jail. Apparently, with the other inmates, they are all brought into sort of like a group room. You mentioned it, where they watch TV together, but Kohberger totally isolated, but just down the way, so he has the TV to himself in his cell.
So here's another quote. He apparently has been taking a lot of taunts from the other prisoners, but the jailer said that he is still a model prisoner, even when they taunt him and they call him names. This is what the other inmate said. He rarely talks. Quote, "He always has the same expression or non-expression. Quote, he just looks straight ahead. I've never, ever seen his eyebrows or his mouth move. He never says anything." And then we can also confirm that he is allowed to make calls out. He can't receive the calls. And if he gets a call, they will pass him. The jailers will pass him a note. And then he has the option to call or FaceTime him back. And FaceTiming, Bryan, is something that has really irked, I think, a lot of the victims' families. They've said, FaceTime? What? An inmate gets to FaceTime? We don't even get, to write letters to our loved ones.
Yeah, I can imagine why that would be frustrating and hard to hear when you lost a loved one. But I'm not surprised about him not really having emotions, not even raising an eyebrow when people yell out at him. We've seen him out, when he's been transported in Pennsylvania outside, just totally stone cold. When he's brought into court, same exact thing. And so it doesn't surprise me that that's the way he's acting also behind bars. And we've heard the same thing, that, in many ways he is, sort of a model prisoner, courteous with the guards, doesn't really cause any trouble, mostly keeps to himself in his cell. Besides what we've also confirmed tonight, that he is now going to a private mass on Sundays.
So, to put this in perspective for you, this is a very small jail. Not a lot of serious crimes happen out there in this area. A lot of the people that are in jail with Bryan, they may be in there for they're backed up on child support. Maybe they didn't pay their parking tickets. Maybe, I don't know how, what the laws are out there. Maybe they got caught with a dime bag of weed while driving to freaking the grocery store or Kmart or something, right? That's the type of crimes these people are in jail for, who are locked up with Bryan. Mind you, all of them have to share the same TV. All of them have to share cells with each other. All of them have to eat whatever crappy jail food they make that day. Okay? That's how their lives go. Bryan, on the other hand, who's accused of killing 4 people, he gets his own private TV where he can watch whatever he wants. He gets special meals that are cooked just for him. Cooked in pots that have never touched meat before. They are catering to Bryan Kohberger. But not just that. Since when have you ever heard of inmates getting calls? I don't know what type of backwards societies people live in or what type of privileges they may have in their areas. Inmates don't get calls. You don't call the jail and be like, yeah, I want to talk to Kohberger. That's not how this works. Yeah, as an inmate, you can get your collect call to call your family, which is going to cost money. You don't have people call you. That's not the case with Bryan Kohberger. People are calling the jail for Bryan Kohberger, leaving messages. Their guards are letting him know, and then he rings them on the telephone when he gets a chance. Hey, yeah, you called me? Yeah, sorry, I missed your call. This is Kohberger. Think about that. In what jail does this ever happen at? It doesn't. It does not. So Kohberger can receive calls in jail. Mind you, he doesn't get to, oh, hey, yeah, it's Kohberger. They give him the message and then he has to call them back. But that's not something that happens in jail. But not just that. Kohberger gets FaceTime. Go ahead, Kohberger, FaceTime whoever you want from jail. You got your nice little neat cell. No one gets to go in it. No one gets to touch it. You got your private TV. You got your special vegan meals coming to your cell 3 times a day. You're FaceTiming. You got fan groups of women out here lusting after you, writing you letters, sending you money on your books. Kohberger has it sweet. Kohberger has it better than any other inmate in that jail. What do you mean Kohberger gets to FaceTime people? And listen, there's a difference between visitation where you're on a monitor, basically FaceTime, and you FaceTime calling people from jail. That's the difference. There's a difference. Now, like I said, I don't know what the heck type of stuff other people got going on. I've never seen anything like this before. And I've been telling you all since, I don't want to say since day one, since early on after Bryan Kohberger got caught, that for some reason this dude was getting special treatment. Public defenders, and we're going to have that 1 or 2 people in the comments, my public defender did an awesome job. My public defender really cared about me and did everything. No. Public defenders rarely, if ever, go out of their way to defend their client like they are defending Bryan Kohberger. Your public defender, and you can say my public defender cared about me and did everything. Your public defender did not hire a private group of investigators to investigate the case to prove your innocence. That does not happen. It does not happen. Bryan has been given the best free legal defense that you can get in this country. In fact, I think there are paid lawyers out there who get paid hefty amounts of money from their clients who don't go as hard for their clients as these public defenders are going for Bryan Kohberger. They are bending over backwards to ensure that there's a possibility that Bryan Kohberger walks away from this, a free man. So Bryan's got all of his vegan meals coming to him. He's got these fan groups. He's got letters every day, hella money on his books. He's FaceTiming whoever he wants. He's kicked back watching his private television. Meanwhile, nonviolent offenders are in jail getting their head beat, their heads beat in the middle of the night, sleeping in cells with 30 other people all sharing the same TV and toilet, not being able to get in contact with their family members. Yet we have this murderer or alleged murderer gets the royal treatment. And that's my problem with a lot of this, that's part of my problem with our legal system. It makes no sense to me. How people who do things like what Bryan Kohberger did, they're given special treatment. And it's not always the case. It's not always like this. But for some reason, in Bryan Kohberger's case, man, these people are protecting him like a golden egg. He's their golden egg. And people say, well, they just want to ensure a safe trial. They want to ensure that Bryan Kohberger is safe and he can stand trial. No. Bryan Kohberger is a golden egg. And everyone's trying to make money off of him. They're all trying to get attention off of him. They're trying to protect him because he's their golden child. To these public defenders that dropped all of their other cases to protect Bryan Kohberger and to represent Bryan Kohberger, he's their golden egg. Look how much money they are being paid to represent him as opposed to the amount of money they get paid to represent other people. In any situation, you could always follow the money trail and you understand why. There's a lot of money to be made here. This public defender is about to make more money than she's ever made in her life off of defending Bryan Kohberger in court. And all of these people are working together to ensure that Bryan Kohberger's life goes as smoothly as possible behind bars. Because he is their golden egg. Make no mistake about it. And if you feel differently, fine. You're not going to sway me in my beliefs. Let me know your thoughts, though, down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. And I'll talk to you all in the next video.